Everyone in this world will turn into the last animal they eat. Some people ate delicious duck necks and turned into mice, ruling the entire mouse world. Others ordered braised chicken takeout and became a chicken that can sing, dance, and rap. What's more, someone drank soup made with fossils and instantly turned into a dinosaur, slaughtering everything in its path. But you took a bite of your own arm and actually transformed directly into a Chinese divine dragon. It's all because humans have recklessly destroyed the environment. So the will of the earth issued a warning. Everyone will turn into the last animal they eat in 24 hours. If you remember correctly, the last thing you ate was takeout fried chicken, an animal at the bottom of the food chain. Once the global animal transformation begins, you'll become food in an instant. Just as you were worrying, your good brother Wang Chili came looking for you. But unlike you, he was extremely excited, because the Earth's will only said you'd turn into the last animal you eat. It never specified it had to be a modern animal. And Wang Chili's family runs a construction company. Just a few days ago, in a village in the mountains, they actually dug up a Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil. If he could eat it, he'd become an overlord-level existence. Elephants, Siberian tigers, they'd all just be your food. So you and Wang Chili quickly agreed and drove straight to the village. But who knew, upon arriving, Boss C, who was guarding the T-Rex fossil, backed out on the spot. Everyone heard the Earth's will, especially Boss C. As soon as she heard about the global animal transformation, she immediately had the T-Rex fossil heavily guarded. At this moment, Boss C sneered and said, "Forget about that T-Rex fossil. I've got something else good for you two." With that, she had someone bring over a fish tank, and inside was a green turtle. Then you two were locked in a woodshed, looking at the nailed-shut doors and windows around you. Wang Chili lost all will to live, but luckily, the last thing he ate last night was an alligator-snapping turtle. It's still a turtle, sure, but alligator-snapping turtles can grow up to 200 kilograms, and they're extremely outstanding in both defense and attack power. When you opened your backpack, you found only a pack of instant noodles and a sausage inside. If you chose the seasoning packet, you could turn into a cow. If you chose the sausage, a pig. But both are low-combat creatures. However, you felt relieved. At least you could leech off your brother's success. But then you thought, humans are also animals. What would happen if you ate yourself? At worst, it'd be better than turning into a cow or pig. So in the last second before the global animal transformation, you took a hard bite of your own arm. Then, the Earth's will put all humans into a coma. Bodies twisted, transformed, and reshaped, turning into all kinds of animals. But here's the thing. No one turned into an adult directly. Everyone became baby animals instead. Only by constantly devouring others could you evolve. When your good brother Wang Chili woke up again, he really had turned into an alligator-snapping turtle, but he looked left and right and couldn't find you anywhere. Until he turned around and saw an egg the size of a human head behind him. Faint patterns covered the egg's surface, shining with a soft glow from time to time. At the same time, you were completely dumbfounded. You never thought that just biting yourself would turn you into a dragon egg. But even as an egg, you could still see everything outside, and it was a 360-degree unobstructed view. Just as you were still in shock, a system voice sounded in your head. "Congratulations, host, on transforming into a dragon body. You have officially unlocked the Chinese Divine Dragon system. Current status, incubation period. Duration, 10,000 years. Seeing this, you chuckled. Truly worthy of being a descendant of the dragon. The blood of a true dragon flows in my veins. Even though incubation takes 10,000 years, you can unlock it early by constantly hunting. At the same time, you also obtain 2 talent skills. The first is Heavenly Thunder Body Protection. You can summon Divine Punishment Thunder, causing massive area damage. The second is Dragon's Aura, because dragons are born with supreme prestige. It suppresses most creatures. At this moment, your good brother Wang Chili asked in shock, "What the hell did you eat?" To avoid unnecessary trouble, you lied. "Actually, the last thing I ate last night was an ostrich egg." Just as you two were talking, a roar came from outside the door. As the farmhouse door was thrown open, a ferocious beast stuck its head inside. That's right, it was Boss Sai, who had turned into a T-Rex. Even as a baby, it was already as tall as an adult human. At this moment, it shouted loudly, "Wang Chili! I've always hated your rich parents. Today I'm going to make turtle soup to nourish my body. Then The villagers who had turned into stray dogs swarmed around, even though there were many of them. When they saw the spiked turtle shell and the fierce-looking alligator snapping turtle head, they didn't dare approach for a moment. But under Boss Azi's tyranny, a larger stray dog rushed forward. Seeing this, Wang Qili attacked immediately, biting straight at the dog. With a shrill howl, a piece of the villager's nose was bitten off instantly. You have to know, an alligator snapping turtle's bite force can reach an astonishing 450 kilograms. At this moment, Boss C was furious. His underlings couldn't even defeat a turtle. It was a total embarrassment. So he directly swallowed the injured stray dog, roared to the sky, and decided to take action himself. This bloody scene made the surrounding villagers cower in fear with their tails between their legs, and Wang Qili wasn't faring any better. It seemed like this was the moment. You had to step in, so you immediately calmed down, beginning to feel the rules of heaven and earth. At this moment, above the village, the originally clear sky suddenly turned dark with dense clouds, just as Boss C squatted down to bite Wang Qili. You shouted, "Heavenly Thunder Body Protection!" Immediately a bolt of lightning appeared in the dark clouds, striking countless animals on the spot. They fell to the ground and died instantly. But you and Wang Qili, at the center of the thunderstorm, were protected by the dragon's aura and suffered no harm at all. But Boss C wasn't so lucky. With a heart-wrenching scream, his flesh and blood exploded everywhere. His once thick hind legs were blown to pieces, and white brains spilled all over the ground. Congratulations, host. Hunted 25 lapdogs, gained 25 evolution points. Hunted 1 ancient T-Rex, gained 100 evolution points. You never expected Heavenly Thunder Body Protection was this powerful. You thought it was single target damage, but it turned out to be area of effect. And this incredible power far exceeded your expectations. At this rate, you could fully hatch in just 1 year, since this was your first kill. The system also rewarded you with a talent lottery spin. After spinning rapidly, the pointer landed on a talent called Dragon's Wrath. You had no idea what this skill did, but judging from the spiritual energy cost and this awesome name, it must be pretty amazing. Originally, you planned to take Wang Qili to hide somewhere quiet, lying low until you hatched, then go on a rampage. But now, you needed to change your plan. Kill as many as come! So Wang Qili carried you on his back and walked out of the village. But as you passed by a patch of grass, a palm-sized mouse suddenly scurried out, seemingly foraging at night. Eager to evolve, Wang Qili suddenly opened his mouth and swallowed the mouse whole. Immediately after, one more evolution point appeared in his mind, points he could use to upgrade his evolutionary genes. Wang Qili was over the moon. If he hadn't turned into a turtle, he would have broken out into a social shake right then and there. Following your analysis, Wang Qili put the evolution point into defense. After all, alligator snapping turtles already had terrifying bite force. There was no need to gild the lily, but the turtle shell of a juvenile wasn't all that tough, so defense was definitely the best choice. The moment the evolution point was spent, the turtle shell let out a bone-crunching sound and quickly grew thicker. Right before your eyes, the two of you continued on your way. After 3 days of trekking over mountains and rivers, you finally saw the city again, neon-lit and bustling. You'd thought that after humans turned into animals, all these things would vanish into smoke. But surprisingly, they still existed, like a continuation of human civilization. But as you approached the city gate, a pack of fierce dogs blocked your path. Seeing this, Wang Qili immediately opened his mouth wide to intimidate the uninvited guests. Thankfully, the dogs meant no harm. After a brief chat, you learned they were from the evil dog gang. While Wang Qili negotiated with them, you sized up the pack. They all seemed to have reached the growth stage. Evolving was clearly easier in the city. After all, there were more people and animals here. At this point, the evil dog gang said, "If you want to enter, you have to pay protection fees." It turned out that on the second day of the global animal transformation, someone made a surprising discovery. Evolution points could be directly gifted to others. This meant that besides killing, you could also make others hand them over willingly. But the main source of evolution points was still through killing, except for herbivores. They gained evolution points by eating grass, so a large number of herbivores were raised in captivity by carnivores, having their evolution points exploited daily. To avoid unnecessary trouble, You ended up paying 8 evolution points and were finally let in. But you'd already made up your mind. Once you got into the evil dog gang's territory, you'd find a way to lure all these dogs near you and hit them with a heavenly thunder body protection directly. After entering the city, you stared at the scene before you, in utter disbelief. It was like you'd gone back to before the animal transformation. Not exactly orderly, but not chaotic either. All kinds of animals roamed the streets, with many fierce dogs patrolling around. They'd become like law enforcers, maintaining order in the city, just as you were still in shock. A pure white rabbit suddenly hopped over to Wang Chili's side, scaring him so much he almost retreated into his shell. It turned out the rabbit's name was Xia Qingqing. Seeing that you were first-time visitors to the city, she wanted to come help you. However, her sly eyes didn't escape your notice. But you didn't expose her. You wanted to see what she was up to. So at Xia Qingqing's warm invitation, you followed her to her home. But gradually, Wang Qili noticed something was off. You were getting farther and farther from the city center. But Xia Qingqing explained that herbivores had no say in things, so they all lived in more remote areas, following her lead. You finally arrived at a dilapidated rental house. Xia Qingqing's parents were extremely hospitable and quickly prepared dinner. On their plates were some fresh grass, while Wang Qili got a piece of pork. As for you, you were completely ignored. But as time passed, Wang Qili's eyes grew heavier and heavier, and he eventually fell into a deep sleep. It turned out the pork had been tampered with. It was a trap to catch Wang Qili, and their real target was you. If they handed you over to the evil dog gang, they'd get the right to leave the city and be free. But you saw everything clearly. It was like looking for it everywhere but finding it without effort. As long as you got to the evil dog gang's headquarters, one heavenly thunder body protection would wipe them all out in one go. So soon enough, you were taken by Xia Qingqing, typo correction, Xia Qingqing, to face the evil dog gang's leader, the Black Dog King. Using your spiritual sense, you saw that he was a cane corso. Even in the growth stage, he was bigger than a fully grown adult cane corso. The Black Dog King's real name was Wang Lin. He used to be a professional boxer, but after getting injured in a fight, he was stuck in the hospital with no other options. He managed to get his hands on a cane corso nearby. Then, when the animal transformation happened, something miraculous occurred. All his wounds healed completely in an instant. He'd turned into a dog, sure, but a cane corso was no slouch. Using his boxing instincts, he easily defeated all his enemies and finally became the Black Dog King. At this moment, he licked his lips. He'd already had dinner. But looking at this egg, he still felt like he could eat more. Impatiently, he opened his mouth wide to swallow you whole. But in the next second, an extremely powerful aura erupted from the egg. The Black Dog King was instantly pinned to the ground by this pressure. Then your voice boomed like a bell. "Kneel! You lowly creature." Just those few words shocked the Black Dog King into internal injuries, and his bones creaked from the strain. Meanwhile, his subordinates outside, hearing his scream, rushed over, only to be pinned down by the dragon's aura too. Then you spoke again. "Gather all your men here, Black Dog King." True to his title as leader, he mustered up a glimmer of resistance, with sheer willpower, but you held nothing back, unleashing your full dragon's aura once more. This time the Black Dog King didn't dare struggle at all. He felt like his willpower was on the verge of collapsing. Once all the evil dog gang members had arrived, you stopped releasing the dragon's aura. The Black Dog King collapsed, completely exhausted. With terror in his eyes, he asked, "What do you want from us?" You'd originally planned to kill them all, but changed your mind at the last minute. After all, the evil dog gang had evolved so quickly in just a few days because they had a group of herbivores to exploit, an endless supply of leeks to cut. You could do the same. Make them hand over all their evolution points to you directly. That way your incubation speed would skyrocket. So you gave them a choice. Either submit to you or die. Having witnessed your terrifying power, they chose to submit without hesitation. The Black Dog King even handed over all his remaining evolution points to you. In an instant, your incubation period dropped from 10,000 years to 9,890 years. Since this was your first time using evolution points to speed up incubation, the system rewarded you with another talent lottery spin. And so, you drew a talent called Spiritual Energy Circulation. This talent allowed the dragon egg to generate 100 points of spiritual energy on its own every day through breathing. In other words, you could now leave the city entirely, lie low for 2 or 3 years, and hatch successfully. No risks involved. But in this era, the world's balance changed every day. You couldn't afford to wait that long, so you officially renamed the Evil Dog Gang Dragon's Nest and let the Black Dog King continue managing everything. This gesture completely won him over. He immediately bowed and called you boss. Through the Black Dog King's explanation, you finally learned the full situation in the city. It turned out that Haishang City was now divided into 3 major forces, and your Dragon's Nest was one of them. The other 2 were the Cat Gang, led by Mei Lin Mao, and the Rat Gang, led by the Rat King. This made you speechless for a moment. Who would actually choose to eat a rat? But the Rat King was definitely a tough guy. Right before the animal transformation, everyone was scrambling to find large animals to eat, but he picked a rat instead. Because throughout history, rats had thrived in all kinds of extreme environments. They always lived well no matter what, so in the last second before transformation, he fought back the nausea and swallowed the rat whole. After transforming, he immediately led the rat swarm, and quickly took over the city's entire sewer system. Just as you were worrying about how to eliminate the Cat Gang and Rat Gang, the Evil Dog Gang's former strategist stepped forward. And it was actually a husky. His plan was simple. Lure all the cats and rats to a hidden place first, then burn them all to death. Looking at this seemingly profound husky, you immediately pointed out the flaw in his plan. How are you supposed to lure them there without a big enough bait? This plan was just all talk and no action. It wouldn't work at all. But then you thought, what bait could be more attractive than yourself? So to test it out, you stopped hiding your aura and let it shine brightly. In an instant, you emitted a dazzling glow, making the surrounding dogs drool with desire. This was the perfect bait. But just as you were discussing the next steps, your good brother Wang Qili was brought in by your subordinates. It turned out that early this morning, Wang Qili had woken up to find you gone from his back. Panicked, he immediately surrounded the rabbit family and forced them to talk. That's how he learned you'd been taken to the Evil Dog Gang. This filled Wang Qili with immense guilt. If he hadn't been so greedy, none of this would have happened. Then, under his threat, Xia Qingqing led him here. The moment he saw you, he ran over excitedly, while also being shocked. How had you become the leader of the Evil Dog Gang? Just by being an egg? But thinking back to the thunderstorm last time, he seemed to understand. You were very happy with Wang Qili's reaction. This was what a true brother looked like. Even knowing the Evil Dog Gang was dangerous, he still came looking for you. After briefly explaining what had happened to him, Wang Qili immediately shouted, telling you to just zap everyone with thunder. He was clearly getting cocky, but you just grinned and said you had a better plan. After all, Heavenly Thunder Body Protection consumed spiritual energy, and you didn't want to waste it unnecessarily. Before long, 3 days passed. In the city, an explosive rumor suddenly spread. The leader of the Evil Dog Gang had obtained a glowing egg. This egg shimmered all over. It didn't look like anything from this world. Many guessed it might be a dragon egg. Any ordinary animal that ate it could gain dragon blood. As soon as this news broke, the entire city was in an uproar. All forces stirred, springing into action. On the other side, the Rat Gang and Cat Gang, hearing about the dragon egg, immediately started plotting. After all, if an ordinary animal ate it, they could gain dragon blood. But fearing the Evil Dog Gang's strength, the 2 gangs formed an alliance and decided to seize it together. Their plan was simple. The Cat Gang would distract the enemy head-on, while the Rat Gang stole the dragon egg through the sewers. What they didn't know was that you had already set a trap, waiting for them to walk right into it. Meanwhile, back at the warehouse, you had been staying put these past few days, but the Black Dog King came every day to hand over the collected evolution points. Of course, you didn't take all of them. You only took 80%. The Black Dog King needed to get stronger too. Otherwise, he couldn't keep control of such a big territory. And it wasn't just him. All the former Evil Dog Gang members and the captive herbivores were allowed, on your orders, to keep a small portion of their evolution points to improve their own strength. Besides, herbivores that reached the growth stage earned more evolution points every day anyway. It was a win-win. At this moment, the Black Dog King arrived as usual, with today's evolution points. But what confused you was that the number today was double what it was yesterday. It turned out that after you announced the new rules, many herbivores from other forces had secretly defected to Dragon's Nest. Even though they were still exploited, they could at least keep a little for themselves. Tempted by this, the number of herbivores in Dragon's Nest had increased significantly, leading to more evolution points overall. After understanding what had happened, you told the Black Dog King not to restrict the herbivores' movements. Let them live a little more freely. This way they wouldn't rebel. But if anyone caused trouble, he should occasionally pick out a few to make an example of them. Kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. After the Black Dog King left, you looked at the newly acquired evolution points and immediately used half of them to speed up your incubation. For the rest, you chose to draw a lottery. After all, besides incubation, talents were your only way to get stronger right now. As you activated the talent lottery wheel, the pointer spun rapidly and finally landed on a talent called Dragon Soul Contract. As long as the host activated this talent, they could form a master-servant contract with creatures of lower bloodline. The contracted creature could never break free from control. Seeing such an awesome talent, you almost shouted with excitement. Even though you had all these powerful skills, you were still just an egg. So before you successfully hatched, you needed to build a trustworthy organization. Up to now, the only one you could trust was Wang Qili. You didn't trust any of the other dogs from the evil dog gang. They were only submitting temporarily. If anything went wrong, they'd betray you in an instant. This newly acquired talent was exactly what you needed to solve your current dilemma. As time came to dawn, Dragon's Nest received some unexpected guests. Cat Boss arrived at the gate, with a large group of subordinates looking aggressive. But before they could yell threats, the dogs, who had been warned in advance, popped out from all directions, like divine soldiers descending from heaven, surrounding them completely. Then, the Black Dog King walked out surrounded by his men. But the moment he saw Cat Boss, he frowned. In just a few days, Cat Boss had grown a whole size bigger. Now he was almost as big as the Black Dog King himself. Before the animal transformation, dogs could easily crush cats, purely because of their size advantage. But at the same size, cats were much more agile, in both reaction speed and movement. While the Black Dog King was thinking, Cat Boss's eyes turned cold. He twisted his body into an exaggerated posture and jumped high into the air. A flash of sharp claws later, one dog's throat was slit open on the spot. Cat Boss's sudden attack caught the Black Dog King off guard. He never expected Cat Boss to be this fast! But there was no time to think. Letting out a loud howl, the Black Dog King charged forward too. The two sides immediately clashed fiercely, because Cat Boss exploited herbivores even more harshly. His men were clearly much stronger than Dragon's Nest's side, although the battle was evenly matched for the moment. If things continued like this, defeat was only a matter of time. Meanwhile, in the warehouse, the Rat King sneaked in with his subordinates. The moment he saw the egg on the table, he couldn't take his eyes off it, because the stronger an animal was, the more clearly they could sense your aura. At this moment in the Rat King's mind, an extremely tempting voice seemed to echo, urging him to step forward and eat you. But before he took 2 steps, the Rat King suddenly bit his tongue hard, forcing himself to sober up, because as soon as he got close to the dragon egg, a strong sense of danger suddenly surged in his heart. This made the Rat King instantly alert. Inside the dragon egg, you were stunned by his strange behavior. You had planned to seize the chance to kill him in one hit. When he got closer, but just as you locked onto his aura, he had already sensed something was wrong. It seemed his strength was definitely far above the Black Dog King and Cat Boss. Not just a little bit. The cunning Rat King then sent his subordinates forward to test the waters. They thought it was an easy task. But suddenly disaster struck. With a roar of dragon's wrath, a 6-pointed star formation instantly took shape, orange-red flames. Carrying terrifyingly high temperatures erupted forth, engulfing the entire warehouse in the blink of an eye. The rats that had just gotten close to you vanished completely in the flames without even a scream. This terrifying sight scared the living daylights out of all the remaining rats. The timidity deep in their genes drove them to flee this hellish place as fast as they could. But before they could take 2 steps, another unexpected change happened. An unparalleled pressure descended from above. slamming down on them. All the rats, including the Rat King, plopped down onto the ground with a thud. The Rat King struggled to lift his head, asking in disbelief, "Who the hell are you?" When he learned you were the new leader of the evil dog gang, he suddenly remembered. A few days ago, the evil dog gang had suddenly renamed themselves Dragon's Nest. At the time, he had mocked them for it, but now he realized they had a new master. After witnessing your terrifying strength firsthand, he knew there was no way he could win, even though the Rat King had some hidden power. Asking a martial artist to fight a cultivator was really putting the rat in a tough spot, so the Rat King fell backward, lying flat on the ground on the spot. "If I've fallen into your hands," he said, "I guess I admit defeat." Then he closed his eyes, resigned to his fate. But you didn't kill him. Instead, you gave him two choices. 1, die without a trace. 2, submit to you. Upon hearing this, the Rat King on the ground immediately sprung to his feet and chose to submit without hesitation. This ridiculous scene almost made his subordinates' jaws drop. Was this the same ruthless Rat King they knew? The reason you didn't kill him was because you realized he was actually a talented guy. Ugly, sure, but talented. Due to the animal transformation, all communication devices had stopped working. The only information you could get now was limited to the small Haishang city. As for what was happening outside, you had no idea. Since you'd decided to take the path of an overlord, you needed to grasp all this information. And the Rat King and his subordinates were the perfect choice for intelligence work, because rats were small in size. They could sneak into other settlements unnoticed. To gather intelligence, their strong adaptability also allowed them to survive in all kinds of extreme environments. They were practically born spies. So to test the Rat King's loyalty, you told him to show his sincerity. Upon hearing this, he lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said, "If I go kill Cat Boss, that should be enough to prove my loyalty, right?" After you nodded in agreement, the Rat King turned into a black blur and darted out of the warehouse. Meanwhile, at the gate of Dragon's Nest, Cat Boss had become completely bloodthirsty, forgetting all about their plan to steal the dragon egg together. They only needed to stall for time. There was no need to fight this desperately. But once the fighting started, who cared about that? Dragon's Nest was on the verge of defeat, and Cat Boss now had only one thought in his mind: defeat the dogs once and for all, then go wipe out those stinking rats. But just then, an extremely fast black blur approached, reaching the center of the battlefield in the blink of an eye. When it stopped, all the cats and dogs present finally saw clearly. It was a rat as big as a dog. This sudden turn of events left all the animals stunned. Did this rat become a spirit? How did it get so big? Cat Boss immediately recognized it was the Rat King. He had no idea how the rat had grown so large, but there was no time to ask. He just wanted to team up with the Rat King to wipe out these stupid dogs. But before Cat Boss could speak, a shrill scream suddenly rang out. It turned out the Rat King, standing right in front of him, had launched an attack without any warning. His sharp teeth pierced Cat Boss's throat in an instant. After a moment, the Rat King finally let go, then dragged the corpse and disappeared again. With Cat Boss dead, the Black Dog King became the strongest fighter present. Under his command, the cats were quickly subdued completely. Back in the warehouse, you had dared to let the Rat King leave, because you'd figured out new ways to use your talents. During your free time these past few days, for example, you could seal Heavenly Thunder Body Protection inside your good brother Wang Killy's body. As long as he thought about it, he could activate and use it on the spot. But without Dragon Blood, using Heavenly Thunder Body Protection would cost him a heavy price. As for Dragon's Wrath, you'd discovered an even more overpowered use. Once you locked onto a target's aura, Dragon's Wrath would automatically track them. There was no way to hide. And back in the warehouse, you had already locked onto the Rat King's aura. If he didn't come back within 3 minutes, or if you sensed he was about to escape, you would unleash Dragon's Wrath without hesitation. But just then, the warehouse door was roughly smashed open. The Rat King dragged Cat Boss's corpse and rushed straight in. After getting your approval, his body shrank back down, returning to its original size. Then he knelt down in front of you. It turned out that to complete the task, he had gone all out, using his full strength. Such an exaggerated transformation had even taken a toll on the Rat King himself. But before he could catch his breath, a resounding dragon roar suddenly exploded in the Rat King's mind. His vision went black, and he lost consciousness completely. It was you who had activated your Dragon Soul contract talent. After waiting in the warehouse for nearly 10 minutes, the Rat King finally woke up, but his scarlet eyes were empty and lifeless, as if he had experienced something extremely terrifying. It turned out the Dragon Soul contract you had unleashed was a type of slave contract. After the contract was completed, a powerful Dragon Soul would leave an indelible mark deep in the target's soul. Ordinary creatures' souls were very fragile, and rats were naturally timid. The Rat King, who had just gone through this process, had obviously suffered a lot. But now you could clearly feel a strange connection between you and the Rat King. A feeling that you could control his life and death. With Cat Boss dead and the Rat King surrendered, this great battle finally came to an end. Right now, the sea is almost completely under your control. Before long, night falls. You summon all the leaders of the organization to lay out the next plan for the Dragon Dynasty. You need more evolution points, so the force must expand outward. But before that, we have to get rid of the hidden dangers in the city first. Even though besides them, other forces in the city are not worth worrying about, it's still safer to keep them under control. Otherwise, letting them develop freely. Who knows when they'll stir up trouble? You don't want to have problems in your backyard while fighting abroad. So this task is assigned to the Black Dog King. As for the Rat King, he'll lead his rat swarm to scout the situation outside Haishang City. Since we need these guys to work, we should give them some sweeteners first. So, you simply split the evolution points collected today into 2 parts and handed them to the Black Dog King and the Rat King respectively. Both of them were thrilled and quickly chimed in with thanks in unison. But just then, the Rat King suggested, since we're expanding our power, just calling you boss really loses some dignity. We need a domineering title. So the Rat King bowed his head and thought for a moment, and seemed to have a great idea. Since you're a dragon egg, and our force is called the Dragon Dynasty, from now on, everyone will call you Holy Lord. How does that sound? But you didn't care much about titles. You came up with the name Dragon Dynasty, completely on a whim. But since these guys are happy to call you that, you didn't bother to stop them. Let them be, no matter how gorgeous the title is. In the face of absolute strength, it's all useless. Early the next morning, the Black Dog King gathered a large group of dogs and set off towards the other animal forces in the city. In just 2 short days, some surrendered, and others disappeared without a trace. As for the Rat King, the day after the meeting, he led his subordinates and left to scout information in other cities. Before we knew it, a month passed. At this time, in the Dragon Dynasty's headquarters, you stared at your system panel out of boredom. Over the past month, you used all the collected evolution points to speed up your hatching time. It went from 9,080 years to over 8,000 years now, but you were still not satisfied with the speed, because in this short month, several very strange things happened again. Besides the Rat King, more than a dozen mutated animals appeared in the city. Some of them mastered the ability to instantly multiply their strength dozens of times. Others gained speed that broke their own limits, and some grew extremely powerful claws on their bodies that could easily tear through a wall. These animals seemed to mutate suddenly, and gained power so strong it defied the laws of nature. But you still haven't found out the exact reason for their mutation. Fortunately, among the mutated animals, more than half are members of the Dragon Nest, including the Black Dog King. With his help and that of several other members, they successfully subdued those mutated guys. But just like the Rat King, when using their abilities, they also consume a lot of physical strength and can't maintain them for long. Just as you were deep in thought, you were interrupted by a shrill voice, and from the sound, it was clearly the Rat King who had left a month ago. At this time, his size had increased again, obviously reaching the mature stage. Through his narration, you learned about the situation in Mohai City, and Mohai City was where you and Wang Kili originally lived. Back then, you drove to the mountains to look for fossils. Later, Wang Chili turned into an alligator turtle, and you turned into an egg. It took you several days just to get to Haishang City, let alone return to Mohai City, and now it's occupied by a group of lions, and all of them have reached the mature stage. Their leader is a guy known as the Golden Lion King, who is actually a cougar that mutated and gained special abilities. But the Rat King said the opponent's abilities are extremely terrifying, Even he almost got caught while scouting. However, this aroused your great interest. After all, Mohai City is where you lived for more than 10 years, and it's not too far from Haishang City. It would be nice to go back and have a look. So that night, you gathered all the leaders and announced your plan to leave. As for Haishang City, it will be managed by the Black Dog King uniformly, and the evolution points collected every day will be kept by him temporarily, to be handed over to you when you return. After all, after mutated animals appeared in the city, you spared no expense to brand them all with the Dragon Soul contract, naturally including the Black Dog King. So as long as the Dragon Soul contract exists, they wouldn't dare to have any wrong ideas about you. As time came to the next day, on a highway on the outskirts of Haishang City, Wang Qili was carrying you and crawling slowly down the road. After more than a month, your weird duo set off on a new journey again. But at this time, the wild had changed a lot. The originally flat and straight highway was now gradually covered with some vines. At this rate, in a few decades, the cities left by humans will be completely assimilated by the wild environment. Although you can see traces of various animals along the way, it's hard to find any actually walking on the road, like you two, unless they're extremely ferocious beasts. And to get to Mohai City, this highway is already the closest. No matter what troubles you encounter along the way, you have to tough it out. Before setting off this time, the Black Dog King planned to lead half of the members to escort you. But after thinking about it, you firmly refused. Because with your current strength, you don't fear these wild animals at all, and you don't even need to make a move. Wang Qili alone is enough to handle them. Although he's a bit slow, you're not in a hurry. You can just treat it as training for Wang Qili. But just then, the voice of the Earth's will appeared again, detected a large number of animals with unnatural abilities appearing. About to re-establish order. In 24 hours, everyone will unlock a complete evolution path and can use a large number of evolution points to activate their own special abilities. After killing animals with special abilities, you will gain more evolution points. As the voice faded, your heart was already in an uproar. Because the animals with unnatural abilities mentioned by the Earth's will must refer to those animals like the Rat King that gain power beyond nature. And does this indicate that there will be creatures that can threaten you? Then you two continued on your way. On the rest of the journey, although you encountered many ambushing animals, with your perfect cooperation, they were all easily resolved. However, when passing through a bamboo forest, a deafening roar broke the peace here, followed by dense footsteps. Since alligator turtles have poor eyesight, you've been acting as the radar along the way. But just as you were about to use your spiritual sense, a black and white figure suddenly rushed out of the bamboo forest, shouting, "Finally saved!" Then without saying another word, it hid behind you. But when you and Wang Qili saw this guy, you almost dropped your jaws, because its black and white fur, plus the iconic dark circles around its eyes. It's clearly a giant panda, and the most important thing is that it can talk, which means it was transformed from a human. Who would have thought that before the animalization apocalypse, someone actually dared to eat a national treasure? But before you could even catch your breath, 8 more brown figures suddenly appeared, all of them domineering lions. And the leading lion, when it saw the panda behind Wang Qili, let out a terrifying roar. That piercing sound instantly scared the wits out of animals within kilometers, causing quite a commotion in an instant. The moment it heard the roar, the panda covered its ears in fright, squatted on the ground trembling with fear. But just then, the leading lion suddenly noticed an egg on the alligator turtle's back. In just a fleeting glance, its gaze couldn't tear away. Who would have thought there'd be an unexpected gain from this trip? If I bring this egg back to the boss, he'll definitely reward me well. But just as the lions were about to pounce together, a terrifying pressure came crashing down. With a loud thud, all except the leading lion were crushed to the ground, as if burdened by 1,000 June of weight. At this time, the leading lion also frowned tightly, as if enduring immense pain. It clenched its teeth, struggling desperately not to collapse. Even you inside the dragon egg couldn't help but be shocked. You clearly hadn't held back at all just now, unleashing your full pressure right from the start. But although this guy looked extremely difficult, he just wouldn't be completely crushed. And just then, the opponent endured the pressure and let out a long roar towards the sky. Then its originally brown fur inexplicably glowed with a hint of scarlet. The muscles on its limbs and torso bulged instantly, filled with explosive power. and its billiard ball-sized eyes emitted a soul-piercing cold glow. Wang Qili and the panda, stared at by it, felt as if plunged into an ice cave, as if targeted by something extremely terrifying. After its body changed, the pressure on the leading lion decreased sharply, and it actually stood upright, staring solemnly at you, asking what on earth you were, but you ignored it and whispered to Wang Qili below, exchanging a few words. Seeing that you didn't pay attention to it, the leading lion flew into a rage. Then it kicked the ground hard, lunging at Wang Qili at high speed. Its sharp lion claws slammed down in an instant, and its target was exactly you on Wang Qili's back. But the moment the opponent launched the attack, Wang Qili also moved. Under your command, he climbed onto the panda's back at an extremely fast speed. With a shout of heavenly thunder protection, the originally cloudless sky suddenly boomed with a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, a golden thunderbolt crashed down. In an instant, within 50 meters centered on you, it turned into a golden sea of thunder, madly destroying all life force within range. As the thunderlight gradually faded, the originally dense bamboo forest centered on you formed a huge empty zone. At this time, the lion pride lay scattered on the ground, all signs of life gone from their eyes. And the leading lion was the closest to the center of the thunder. Its fur was charred and standing on end, emitting a terrible burnt smell. But incredibly, it wasn't directly electrocuted to death. Instead, while you were in a daze, its body suddenly erupted with a red glow. A strong smell of blood filled the air, making Wang Qili and the panda feel a little dizzy. When they came to their senses again, the leading lion had turned into a red blur, fleeing rapidly into the distance. Seeing this scene, you were extremely shocked, because you could clearly feel its breath was already fading, yet somehow it managed to escape. But what confused you most was that even if it survived, the heavenly thunder protection that had killed a Tyrannosaurus before failed to finish it off. Although it looked severely injured, it had truly survived the heavenly thunder protection. In just one day, 2 of your 3 ultimate moves had failed. This was the first time you'd suffered such a setback since becoming an animal. But setbacks aside, the immediate trouble still needed to be resolved, so you immediately unleashed Dragon's Wrath. A fiery 6-pointed star array instantly formed above your head. After circling a few times, it shot out towards the direction the leading lion fled. As soon as you sensed something was wrong, you'd already locked onto its aura to prevent it from getting away. Once Dragon's Wrath is unleashed, this guy will die for sure. No matter how far he runs. Congratulations, host. Killed a mature stage mutated lion. Gained 1,780 evolution points. With the system notification, you finally breathed a sigh of relief. But what surprised you was that you gained so many evolution points in one go. After all, the few lions you killed with Heavenly Thunder protection just now only gave you over 300 points. That's totally awesome. But just then, you remembered the panda was still there. So after asking, you found out he was actually an acquaintance of Wang Qili's. His name was Panda, and the Pan family used to be one of the top wealthy families in Mohai City. But after the damn animalization apocalypse hit, he ended up like this. Then, through Panda's description, you learned the specific situation in Mohai City, and it even involved Wang Qili. It turned out that after the animalization apocalypse, that damn lion pride had occupied his family's mansion. This instantly made Wang Qili nervous. Losing the house didn't matter. After all, they were all animals now, and could live anywhere. But what he cared most about was whether his parents were still in Mohai City. With their stubborn, old-fashioned thinking, if they found out the house was occupied, they'd definitely fight the lions to the death. As Panda continued speaking, you truly understood how chaotic Mohai City was. It turned out that after the lion pride took over Mohai City, at first they were just like the previous evil dog gang, making everyone hand over evolution points every day to strengthen their own power. Although the herbivores were oppressed, at least their lives weren't in danger. But since the Earth's will appeared again, everything changed completely. Some fool suddenly discovered a pattern and destroyed the herbivores' original living environment because they found that as long as herbivores faced life-threatening danger the previous day and survived, the evolution points they could gain the next day would increase significantly. This made the lion pride show their fangs, so they selected some herbivores with low daily evolution point output, gathered them together, and launched crazy chases and killings. In the end, only 1/10 of the herbivores could barely survive. Yet you felt no fear of such a dangerous Mohai city, although you just suffered a small setback. You hadn't even used your full strength. If one Heavenly Thunder protection isn't enough, then use 10. Besides, you still have the even more powerful Dragon's Wrath. The reason you hadn't chosen to add new talents before, firstly, you hadn't encountered any strong opponents, and secondly, this system is too greedy. You initially thought each talent draw only cost 1,000 spirit points, but that's not the case at all. Instead, after each draw, the required spirit points double next time. But with what's happening now, you realize it's time to add new talents, and the day before departure, you specifically asked the Black Dog King to collect a batch of evolution points in advance. But if used to draw a talent, it can probably only be drawn once, because the next time it has to be doubled. That's 4,000 points, simply not enough. And even if it were enough, you wouldn't dare use all of them for the draw, because you have to save some for self-defense. But having an extra talent is still great, because every talent drawn by the system, each has an incredible effect. So thinking of this, you directly started the draw. The moment the spiritual energy was deducted, the wheel started spinning. Congratulations, host, on completing the talent draw. You have obtained a new talent. Nongmin Zenlei. The host can use the dragon soul of the divine dragon to let out an earth-shaking dragon roar. When using the basic consumption of spiritual energy, it can cause a large-scale powerful stun, and when using more spiritual energy, it can directly attack the enemy's soul. As the system introduced, you instantly understood the function of this new talent. It seems like a group control skill, but it's not that simple, because it can increase its power based on the spiritual energy consumed, and it's specifically used to attack souls. This is exactly the skill you need right now. So what if those lions have strong physical bodies? They can't possibly have equally strong souls too. Not to mention their physical bodies might not even be able to withstand your 10x Heavenly Thunder body protection. And at this moment, after thinking for a moment, Panda seemed to have made an extremely important decision, then said with a firm expression, he hoped to go to Mohai City with you. This suddenly made you a little confused. This guy was scared to death just now, but now he suddenly became firm. So under Panda's explanation, you finally learned the whole story. It turns out that after animalization, his entire family turned into pandas, because they can produce a lot of evolution points. They were fed by the lion pride every day. Although they suffered endless exploitation, at least they didn't have to worry about food and drink. But after this incident happened, those greedy lions actually started complaining that their production speed was too slow. So by chance, Panda's dad accidentally got the news. The lion pride actually intended to use them for experiments, making them also participate in the plan to farm evolution points, but Panda's dad immediately refused. This was simply pushing them to a dead end. So they planned to wait until dark, when the lion's vigilance was at its lowest, to break through in one go and escape from Mohai City. If they weren't exploited, with Panda's growth rate, it would definitely not be a problem to gain a foothold in the wild. Although they are herbivores, they are still bears after all. Their attack power is no worse than that of some ferocious carnivores. Not the least bit inferior, but what no one expected, they greatly underestimated the ferocity of those lions. After discovering their escape plan, the lion pride did not hesitate at all to launch an attack on them. How could they? Exploited everyday defeat the lion pride, so they were quickly defeated, and all suffered heavy injuries. And Panda's dad even died on the spot at the lion's paws. In the end, only Panda escaped in the chaos, and was chased all the way here. Originally, after escaping alone, he planned to grow in the wild for a few years, then go back to take revenge when he had the strength. But since meeting you, he changed his mind. Because with your incredible strength, you could definitely easily crush this lion pride. After hearing his story, you immediately agreed to help him take revenge. After all, the purpose of your trip is to rule Mohai City. So sooner or later, you'd have to face those lions. In that case, might as well do a favor. Time quickly came to the next afternoon. After 7 days of travel, you finally arrived at your destination, Mohai City. But at this moment at the city gate, several lions were pacing back and forth. If you rushed up rashly, you'd definitely be chased and killed. Because along the way, the closer you got to Mohai City, the fewer animals you encountered. Especially in the last half hour, you hadn't seen a single animal. This is an era where everyone's animalized. Animals are much denser than before, so you inferred the surrounding herbivores had all been captured to farm evolution points. In fact, with your strength, rushing in directly shouldn't be hard. But if you did that, it would definitely attract the lion's attention. If they found out how strong you are, they'd definitely run away scared. With the mobility of the few of you, you'd never catch up. You have Dragon's Wrath for tracking, but it's a single target damage skill after all. Can't deal with so many at once. And your rule is either don't act, or act and beat them into submission, because if even one escapes, it might bring you trouble later. Though this possibility is extremely slim, it must be nipped in the bud. But just then, Panda said he knew a place where you might sneak into the city. So, you came to a creepy cemetery. It turns out this place is seemingly a cemetery, but it's actually an air raid shelter leading to the city. As long as you dig open the entrance, you can go straight to the city center. Upon hearing this, Wang Qili stepped forward bravely and started digging on the ground. It's not that he's so hardworking, but he didn't want to stay in this place for even a minute. A cemetery already full of tombstones, and neglected for so long, now looked extremely desolate and eerie. Plus it's night now. There's also some inexplicable haze around. A scene like this would make anyone stay away, although you've turned into animals. You're not pure animals, because you still have human self-awareness in your minds, and you can still feel fear and dread. But it has to be said, the alligator turtle's digging ability is really strong. In just over 10 minutes, the original bushes were gone, and in their place was a huge pit more than 1 meter deep. And at the bottom of the pit, there was a massive stone manhole cover. With a low groan from Panda, he roughly moved the cover aside, revealing a pitch-black hole. But after entering the air raid shelter, you were blocked by a solid concrete wall, blocking your path. So, you used your spiritual sense to check the wall's thickness, but you couldn't sense anything behind it, which meant the wall was extremely thick. Without large, heavy machinery, it was impossible to pierce through. But there was no better option, so you decided to try breaking it by force. As Dragon's Wrath was unleashed, a fiery red 6-pointed star array formed instantly. Orange-red flames surged like a tide. The previously chilly tunnel heated up several notches in an instant. Seeing this terrifying sight, Wang Qili unconsciously swallowed hard. Even though he'd seen this before, facing it again, he still felt an uncontrollable fear. And Panda, who was originally excited, was now stunned stiff. This fireball's power is way too strong. If he got any closer, he'd probably be roasted alive. And when Dragon's Wrath is generated, without your attack command, it remains as a fireball for 5 minutes, then dissipates naturally. As the fireball approached the wall, the concrete melted like ice and snow. In just a moment, on the once thick wall, a black passage suddenly appeared. Using Dragon's Wrath to burn through this wall was undoubtedly overkill, but it's the only talent you have. To break through right now, as the fireball slowly faded, you successfully passed through the wall and reached downtown Mohai City. The moment you exited the air raid shelter, you looked around vigilantly. After confirming no animal traces, you finally breathed a sigh of relief, because appearing openly in the lion's territory is extremely dangerous. Then you started discussing how to wipe out the entire lion pride in one go. After a heated discussion, you all unanimously decided to use the old trick. First, you'll act as bait to lure all those lions over. Then use Heavenly Thunder body protection to take them all out in one go. It's a simple plan, but extremely effective. But it definitely won't work right now. At the very least, we have to wait until they're all gathered before making a move. Then, led by Panda, you decided to hide at his cousin's house first. So with your spiritual sense scan, you easily avoided all animals, and soon arrived at your destination. It was a 3-story duplex villa. Although it looked a bit old, it still looked quite grand, and the villa's gate was wide open. It was pitch black inside at a glance, nothing like a place where animals lived. But through your spiritual sense scan, you found there were not only animals inside, but quite a lot of them. Before you even got close to the gate, several dog barks suddenly rang out. Then several large Shiba Inus swarmed out from behind the gate and surrounded you completely. But when they saw Panda's face clearly, one of the Shiba Inus immediately recognized him. So under his leadership, you walked into the yard unimpeded. But before you could see the situation clearly inside, Wang Qili suddenly shuddered. On the ground around you lay all kinds of animals. Common cats and dogs were one thing, but what was even more absurd was that there were even snakes and insects, and you even saw 2 clouded leopards. They were all carnivores. Your arrival immediately attracted all the animals' attention, and they stared at you intensely, as if they were looking at delicious food. Just as the scene was about to get out of control, an earth-shaking pressure descended from the sky, instantly making the surrounding animals feel as if they were in an ice cellar. They all collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. And at this critical moment, it was naturally you who unleashed the dragon's might, to temporarily take control of the situation. But just then, the living room door was suddenly pushed open. Then a black figure walked out. It was actually a black panther with a fierce look in its eyes. And after seeing the situation in the yard, before she could even speak to Panda, she felt a powerful pressure rushing towards her. Just as she was about to collapse, Panda quickly told you to stop, saying that the Black Panther was his cousin. As you withdrew the dragon's might, she finally felt the pressure disappear. Then, through Panda's explanation, he told her about his experiences after escaping the city, and your revenge plan. After hearing the plan, Panda's cousin Panting turned her gaze to you again, her eyes filled with awe. That inexplicable pressure just now was like a ferocious beast. She didn't even dare to fight back, not to mention make a move. If this egg could help, maybe they really could pull it off. Time quickly came to the next day. With a loud bang, the villa's gate was kicked open. It was Panting, who had gone to scout for information. Hurrying back from outside, it turned out that the lion Pride was actually going to make a move on Panda's mother. This sudden news instantly drove Panda crazy. He suddenly raised his head and let out a beastly roar, then rushed outside at top speed. This stunned all the animals present, you included. Even though Panda had messed up your plan, the timing was almost right anyway, so at your urging, Wang Kili gritted his teeth and scurried after him with his short legs. Meanwhile, Panda, who was rushing down the street, seemed to have entered some strange state. After hearing the news about his mother just now, for some reason, he felt an urge to kill, with Panda running at full speed. It didn't take long for him to reach the Lion Pride's base camp. Then he started fighting with several lions, and for a moment he was actually unbeatable. Panda didn't know why, but he just felt that his body was filled with endless power. He who used to be scared to death of lions, now when facing them, what he felt in his heart wasn't fear at all, but excitement. With a thud, a lion that tried to sneak attack was slapped by Panda and left seeing stars. But before he could get excited for a few seconds, a roar with extremely strong penetrating power sounded. It was the Lion King who had heard the commotion, and at this moment, his heart was already filled with a storm of shock. He naturally recognized this Panda. It was Panda who had escaped Mohai City a few days ago, but he clearly sent his men to catch him. So why was he here? And how did his strength become so powerful? Furious with anger, the Lion King immediately ordered his men to capture him. The other lions swarmed forward upon hearing this and launched a crazy attack on Panda. Facing the overwhelming claws, Panda seemed extremely excited. He didn't choose to defend or run away, because at this moment he had nowhere to run. As the sound of sharp claws tearing through flesh rang out, Panda actually tanked the enemy's attacks, then waved his fists and slammed them fiercely at the opponent's head. With a crisp crack, that lion's head was directly knocked to the ground by Panda's punch, just as he was about to die. But before Panda could finish him off, a second attack came again, followed by a third. But each attack that landed on him only left a very shallow wound, although it looked terrifying. For a thick-skinned and tough panda like him, it was at most a scratch. But every wound on his body could be exchanged for a crisp sound of bone fracture. However, as more and more animals attacked, the frequency of Panda's counterattack slowed down. During one counterattack, his rhythm was clearly half a beat slow, and the lions behind him seized the opportunity, swarmed him, and subdued him completely. At this moment, Panda, pressed to the ground, showed deep despair in his eyes. If he could have maintained that state just now, he wouldn't have been subdued so quickly. But for some reason, that wonderful state had suddenly disappeared completely. During his crazy battle, at this moment the Lion King glanced around, looking at more than a dozen lions that were clearly going to die. It made him feel a little distressed. So the Lion King had Panda's mother brought over, deciding to kill her in front of Panda, to vent his anger, looking at her son covered in wounds on the ground. Tears instantly streamed down his mother's face. Panda was just about to say something, but at the Lion King's gesture, one of the lions pressing on him immediately covered his mouth. Then, the Lion King raised his sharp claws towards Panda's mother. But at this critical moment, an earth-shaking dragon roar suddenly exploded in the Lion King's mind, followed by a terrifying pressure descending from the sky, instantly stunning all the lions present, and the Lion King stumbled and fell heavily to the ground. He struggled to endure the enormous pressure on his body, trying to find the source of the sudden change. Finally, he locked his target on a huge alligator turtle, and the source of that terrifying pressure was exactly the egg on the alligator turtle's back. From running all the way, Wang Chili was now out of breath, slumping down next to Panda. Seeing that they were actually talking, the Lion King instantly knew something was wrong and immediately tried to get up and run. But as soon as he moved his body, his head felt like it was pierced by countless steel needles. A bone-deep pain surged through him, and you couldn't help but be surprised. Just now, seeing this guy was about to attack Panda's mother, you immediately unleashed Dragon's Roar shaking the sky, and even used a full 500 points of spiritual energy in one go. It stung a bit to spend that much, but the result made you very satisfied. Hundreds of lions present were all knocked unconscious by this one move of yours, and to avoid any mistakes, you even released your dragon's might to the maximum. But what you didn't expect was that under such circumstances, the Lion King could still move. And at this moment, the Lion King's heart was also in an uproar. This sudden turtle and egg, their strength was simply absurd. He was absolutely invincible in Mohai, but in just one encounter, he was directly severely injured by the opponent. At this moment, the Lion King struggled to look up and asked what you really wanted. So you directly said you needed evolution points. And the entire Mohai, after hearing this, the Lion King immediately agreed without hesitation and even offered to be your servant, as long as you spared his life. Soon the system notification sounded, "Congratulations, host, on obtaining 245,974 evolution points." You were completely shocked when you heard this. This is fucking insane. Since robbing the Black Dog King last time, you hadn't felt this feeling of getting rich overnight in a long time. So you suppressed your excitement and used up all the evolution points immediately to speed up your hatching time. Congratulations, host, on successfully accelerating hatching by 1,000 years. Remaining hatching time, 7,170 years. Watching your hatching time decrease, you almost cried out in excitement. Just a trip to Mohai City was already equivalent to half a month's progress in Haisheng City. But just as you were excited, you were suddenly interrupted by the Lion King's screams. It turned out that Panda was sitting on him, punching left and right. Every punch landed solidly on the flesh, making the Lion King scream in agony. This bloody scene made Wang Chili can't bear to look. But just then, a sky-shaking sound suddenly echoed. In the cloudless sky, a pitch-black goshawk appeared. It seemed to notice the commotion here and dive-bombed towards you at extreme speed. Compared to land animals, being turned into birds is indeed much freer. So before the animalization descended, many humans chose this to break free from the constraints of the city. But birds' attack power and defense are obviously much worse than land animals. But they also have their own advantages, such as unparalleled speed and agility, and the natural advantage of being unrestricted by terrain. But at this moment, you didn't envy them at all. After all, one day you will transform into a divine dragon, roaming freely between heaven and earth. At this moment, the goshawk in the sky was staring fixedly at Wang Chili. His intuition told him that the egg on Wang Chili's back was something good. Just as his sharp claws were about to strike, a earth-shaking, resounding dragon roar suddenly exploded in his mind. The diving goshawk was instantly struck as if by lightning, and with a thud, fell straight to the ground. Wang Chili was almost scared to jump by this thing falling from the sky. After he calmed down, he walked a few steps to the goshawk and directly pressed its neck. No matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't break free from Wang Chili's claws. After a round of forced interrogation, you finally learned that the goshawk was an envoy from Yushan City. He was ordered by the Blue Eagle King to invite the Lion King to join forces to conquer the world. But when he saw the Lion King lying on the ground like a dead dog, the goshawk fell into deep thought. Is this still the majestic golden Lion King who dominated one side? And just as you were deciding what to do with the goshawk, suddenly, a dense chorus of roars came from not far away. Then all kinds of ferocious carnivores and huge herbivores crowded in from the entrance. But when they saw the lions lying all over the ground, they all showed shocked expressions. But just then, a pitch-black figure walked out from among them. You immediately recognized her. It was Panting, who had come to deliver the news in the morning, because Panda suddenly went on a rampage. Panting was naturally very worried. Even though she had recognized your strength, she still feared accidents might happen. So she thought of a roundabout way, because there were many outer city hunting organizations, composed of carnivores like them in the city. For a long time, they had been oppressed by the lion pride, but didn't dare to resist. But now it was different, because you, a variable, had appeared. So under her order, her subordinates rushed around, spreading your deeds throughout the city. And the purpose was simple: to invite them all to unite, to help you fight against the lion pride and overthrow their tyrannical rule. But who knew that this action of hers would cause a huge stir in a short time? The hunting organizations that had long resented the lion pride immediately agreed to the request. After hearing the news, even some large herbivores living in the city came to join the team. After hearing the news, so this rebel army, composed of almost half of the city's animals, march hao dang dang into this community. But what they didn't expect was to see this scene as soon as they entered. After learning the whole story, you couldn't help but laugh and cry. When these animals first poured in, you almost thought they were the lion pride's reinforcements. If Panting hadn't appeared in time, you would have unleashed Heavenly Thunder body protection immediately. As time came to night, since the main leaders of the lion pride were all defeated, the entire Mohai city underwent a complete transformation. Without the ruler's constraints, Mohai city was filled with cheers everywhere at this moment, and a large number of animals gathered at Wang Chili's house. Each of these animals was like Panting, a captain leading many carnivores, so many representative animals appearing at the same time. Naturally, it was to determine Mohai's new ruler tonight, but in fact, these animals just came to go through the motions, because you could suppress the entire lion pride. All by yourself. Such unparalleled combat power made them dare not have the slightest thought of resistance. You didn't even need to speak. These animals directly recognized you as Mohai's new ruler, so you immediately announced several changes needed in the city. First, abolish the survival game. Although farming evolution points through this method was indeed extremely efficient, you really didn't want to do such a ruthless thing of extermination. You needed a full 1 million evolution points just to hatch. And this wasn't even your final goal. After hatching, the number of evolution points needed would probably increase drastically, so you had to think about the future. Then you stipulated, from now on, the rules and systems for collecting evolution points in the entire city would be roughly the same as in Haishang City. But the tradition of carnivores going out hunting together, you chose to retain, and greatly reduced the amount of evolution points they needed to hand over. This made several hunting captains present almost cry with excitement. Then, you and Wang Qili went to where the goshawk was being held, planning to ask him about the specific situation in Yushan City, but were shocked to find that he had actually disappeared without a trace. After all, this was the 3rd basement floor. There weren't even any windows, and the only entrance was the iron door you had just opened. But just as you were confused, the iron door you had casually closed behind you let out a creaking sound and somehow opened a crack. Seeing this, you immediately unleashed your dragon's might, which instantly forced the invisible goshawk to reveal himself. At this moment, he was desperately flapping his wings, but suppressed by the dragon's might. He couldn't fly at all, and as soon as Wang Chili saw the goshawk's figure, he immediately pressed him to the ground. This made the goshawk feel worse than death. He never imagined that after finally activating his special ability, and even fooling you, he would lose to a rusty iron door. And at this moment, you became even more curious about this eagle. He was just a messenger, yet he could use such a weird invisibility ability. So what kind of person would the Blue Eagle King he mentioned earlier be? Surely someone like that must have a lot of evolution points. Then, through the Goshawk Messenger's account, you quickly got the information you wanted. It turned out that the Blue Eagle King was a bug in Yueshan City, and the reason the Goshawk came here was to invite the Lion King to form an alliance, then conquer the world together, one ruling the sky and the other dominating the land. Hearing this, you immediately said that the Lion King had been defeated, but you could go in his place. Upon hearing this, The goshawk regretted it so much he could kick himself. If he really brought this troublemaker back, the Blue Eagle King would probably tear him apart alive. Although staying in Mohai City to collect evolution points was safer, you still preferred to go out and wander. You had only been to Mohai City once, and it was already equivalent to half a month's hatching progress in Haishang City. So if you went to Leshan City, which was even larger than Mohai City, how many evolution points would you get? And you also wanted to see this Blue Eagle King who had taken control of the entire Sichuan province in just 2 months, to see what kind of incredible abilities he had. So in the following days, you made both the Lion King and the Goshawk sign the Dragon Soul contract, and let Panda take your place in managing Mohai City, while Wang Qili decided to return to Haishang City to help you guard the base camp. 3 days later, you got into the wooden box on the Goshawk's back, and with an order, he took off straight away, soaring into the sky, flying rapidly towards Leshan City. And Leshan City was about 3,000 kilometers away from Mohai City, at the Goshawk's current speed of nearly 400 kilometers per hour. You would reach the destination tomorrow, so when night fell the next day, you successfully arrived in Yuashan City and landed on a towering tree. Resting temporarily, you closed your eyes to meditate in the dragon egg, when you suddenly thought you hadn't gained any new talents in a long time. Although you were very confident in your strength, you faintly felt that this trip to Yuashan City probably wouldn't be that simple. If the Blue Eagle King's strength was really as the Goshawk described, then he would definitely be the strongest enemy you had encountered so far. Thinking of this, you decided to act immediately, so you directly contacted the system and issued the order to draw a talent. After all, 4,000 points of spiritual energy now was just 1 day's income in Mohai City. As the wheel's pointer slowly stopped, a notification sound soon came to your ears. Congratulations, host, on obtaining the new talent, Divine Dragon's Breath. This skill is a top-tier rare talent. It can spray the dragon breath stored in your body. Both penetration and destructive power are top-tier. However, activating this talent requires consuming 1,000 points of spiritual energy. And since the host has not yet hatched, the recovery of dragon breath in your body is very slow, so please use it with caution to avoid irreversible side effects. After obtaining the new talent, you were very excited at first. But after hearing the system's warning, your expression instantly turned as if you were constipated. This is such a ripoff! If the sequelae after using this talent are really serious, then it would be a complete waste of 4,000 spiritual energy. Fortunately, after the system explained, you finally understood the specific reason. It turns out that dragon breath is a powerful energy. Innate in all dragons, it plays a crucial role in hatching. If overdrawn excessively, the dragon breath in your body will enter a weakened state and may even affect your strength after hatching. With the amount of dragon breath you currently have, you should use Divine Dragon's Breath no more than 5 times before hatching. But you were already satisfied. After all, just reading the description of this talent, it already sounds incredibly overpowered. Not to mention it's called a rare talent. It definitely isn't something ordinary. But using it once requires consuming 1,000 points of spiritual energy. Only an idiot would use it casually every day. Then, feeling content, you were about to close your eyes and fall asleep, when a sudden change occurred. All kinds of strange bird calls suddenly swept over from not far away, and all the animals in the jungle started scurrying around in a panic. Seeing this, you spread out your spiritual sense, and then found that, in all directions around you, countless birds had gathered. The dark mass of them definitely numbered no less than several thousand. As you were thinking, a group of birds took the lead in moving, and their target was exactly you. Seeing that they meant no good, you certainly wouldn't just sit and wait for death. Then, terrifying dragon's might was unleashed in an instant. In just the blink of an eye, it completely covered that group of birds. The moment their bodies came into contact with the dragon's might, they were instantly struck as if by lightning, and fell to the ground one after another. But this wasn't the end. After the first batch of birds fell, the second batch of birds followed without hesitation. Wave after wave of attacks. This made you a little annoyed. You had already used Dragon's Might and Dragon's Roar, shaking the sky. But these birds were still acting like madmen, constantly launching attacks on you. So you had to throw out a few Heavenly Thunder Body protections to let them taste the feeling of being roasted. Congratulations, host, on killing 72 vultures. Obtained 1,457 evolution points. Congratulations, host, on killing 56 owls. Obtain 983 evolution points. Congratulations, host, on killing 27 black abyssal eagles. Obtained 1,042 evolution points. Listening to the system notifications in your mind, you were extremely excited at this moment. Just this one wave, you actually obtained more than 20,000 evolution points. Sure enough, only killing is the fastest way to gain evolution points. But just as you were excited, you felt it again. A large group of birds flying over from afar. But this time their aura was obviously much stronger than the previous ones, just as you were about to throw a few more heavenly thunder body protections. The goshawk beneath you spoke up. He hoped you would show mercy. It turned out that these birds were all the Blue Eagle King's subordinates. Among them, he sensed the aura of his own brother. If it were any other subordinates coming, the goshawk wouldn't have bothered to intervene. After all, he was barely able to protect himself now, but the ones coming were his former relatives, and he couldn't stand by and do nothing no matter what. Seeing this, you decided to see what these guys were really up to. As soon as the two sides made contact, the goshawk's brother, the fifth Dharma protector, started yelling at the goshawk furiously, accusing him of breaking his oath and betraying the Blue Eagle King. This left the goshawk speechless with injustice. Then the fifth Dharma protector turned his gaze to you and asked if you had come to attend the World Conference. His tone this time was extremely respectful, because through the previous test, he knew your strength was terrifying beyond measure. At this moment, you could also feel that this group of birds was obviously different from the previous ones. Although their aura was much stronger, they didn't show the slightest hint of hostility. Instead, they adopted a respectful posture. At this time, on the outskirts of Leshan City, there was a huge ancient palace, and the Blue Eagle King was meditating with his eyes closed, as if waiting for something. But just then, one of the Dharma protectors behind him flew out and quickly announced the names of the arrivals. Songjang's Barbarian Bear King, Qingzhou's Azure Wolf King, Tibetan Mastiff Dragon Dog King, 10,000 Snakes Cave Snake King, Zhenshan's One-Horned King. Then every once in a while, a overlord-level figure would appear. Before animalization, such a scene was absolutely impossible. But now these ferocious animals were all gathered together, and in an extremely harmonious manner. So under the coordination of the host, Blue Eagle King, they chatted enthusiastically with each other. But just then, the animals seemed to sense something unusual, and all turned their heads to look outside the palace. Then a domineering name echoed, "Dragon Worship Holy Lord arrives." At this moment, the sky was dark with all kinds of birds. This sudden announcement immediately caused a stir among the animals. The first thing they thought of was dinosaurs. After all, throughout human history, the only creatures related to dragons were dinosaurs. And although these animals were now at the top of the food chain, compared to prehistoric creatures like dinosaurs, they would probably only be food. As for the legendary divine dragon that could ride clouds and mist and control wind and rain, they didn't even dare to think about it. But when they followed the sound, they only saw a dark mass of birds, no dinosaurs at all. It was more like a bird's nest than a dragon's lair. Relieved that there were no dinosaurs, the animals breathed a collective sigh of relief and began mocking the sky. As the bird flock dispersed, you were led to a seat in the corner. Only then did the animals realize that the so-called Holy Lord was actually inside the wooden box on the goshawk's back. On the fifth Dharma protector's side, he had already reported all your information to the Blue Eagle King. Learning of your terrifying strength, shock surged in his heart. Then a flash of inspiration appeared in his eyes. Obviously, he wasn't planning anything good. But at this moment, you discovered something shocking. As soon as you arrived at the palace, you felt a little restless. This inexplicable feeling had only appeared once before, when the Earth's will descended the second time. And now it appeared again. Did this mean the Earth's will was about to descend once more? As the World Conference officially began, the Blue Eagle King personally came out to preside over the proceedings. He first analyzed the current situation and his plan to establish a new order. The reason he went to such great lengths to gather these overlord-level animals was to form a powerful land alliance to dominate the entire Grand Canyon together with him. But before that, they needed to elect a land alliance lord, and among them, most animals supported deciding the winner through strength. So at the Azure Eagle King's order, an area in the square was immediately cleared, specifically for everyone to compete. The rules were simple. 3 moves to determine victory or defeat. Point to point, no lethal force. Taking the lead was the Dragon Dog King. He won 7 consecutive matches, but finally lost to the Azure Wolf King by a narrow margin. After more than a dozen rounds of competition, the one standing in the center of the arena was the Barbarian Bear King with the strongest aura. It had to be said, his special ability was truly extraordinary. His entire body turned bright red, and the blazing flames surrounding him made him look just like a war god descending to Earth. In just over 10 minutes, more than a dozen animals had been defeated by him, and now only the one-horned king, and you, the dragon egg, hadn't competed against him yet. As long as he defeated you too, he could logically become the Alliance Lord and the #1 ground animal in Great Xia. But just as the one-horned king was about to step up to compete with the Barbarian Bear King, you hastily said you had something to do and had to leave first. Hearing that you wanted to leave at this moment, the animals present instantly exploded in an uproar. They all thought you had definitely chickened out, so they swarmed forward and surrounded you and the goshawk. After the previous competitions, these animals were filled with fighting spirit. Those who had lost the competitions undoubtedly saw you as a punching bag. Then colorful energies flickered continuously. Dozens of special abilities were activated in an instant, surging towards you overwhelmingly. In just a moment, all your escape routes were blocked. You were upset and distracted, and had no time to entangle with these animals. So you directly unleashed Dragon's Roar, shaking the sky. Instantly, an invisible soul attack like a tide swept across the entire square. In an instant, the earth-shaking Dragon Roar exploded in the animals' minds. This immediately made them fall to the ground, showing expressions of pain. This bizarre scene made the other animal leaders stare at you in horror and felt extremely grateful in their hearts. Glad they hadn't acted rashly. Otherwise, they would have ended up like these guys. But their subordinates instantly erupted in chaos. Unlike their leaders, they hadn't noticed your strangeness. In the first place, they only knew their bosses had been taken down. So no matter who you were, they had to rush up and fight you to the death. Seeing this, you sneered in disdain. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen millstone-sized red 6-pointed star arrays formed instantly in midair. Orange-red flames gushed out from them, directly engulfing more than half of the arena. Then extremely miserable screams echoed one after another across the square. Congratulations, host, on killing 12 mutated curled-tailed leopards. Obtained 5,478 evolution points. Congratulations, host, on killing 8 mutated wild boars. Obtained 3,748 evolution points. Congratulations, host, on killing 9 mutated yaks. Obtained 4,134 evolution points. Ignoring the continuous system notifications in your mind, you looked up at the Azure Eagle King in midair. At this moment, his wings had lit up with strange cyan light, and above the sky overhead, a huge protective shield appeared, completely covering the entire square. Originally, when you fought with those leaders, it could only be said they had brought it upon themselves, and you hadn't intended to kill them. But just now you had slaughtered all their subordinates, openly killing so many animals on the Azure Eagle King's territory. Had obviously enraged him. At this moment, you focused all your attention on the energy shield in the sky. Your feeling was correct. The Azure Eagle King could summon so many Overlord-level animals. He definitely had the strength to back it up. Just this energy shield in the sky was enough to prove that this guy was stronger than all the leaders present. And by a wide margin, most of the other animals' activated special abilities were mainly temporary attribute boosts or strengthening certain body parts. The stronger ones, like the leaders who had attacked you just now, in addition to activating abilities and strengthening organs, also possessed powerful special abilities that could be released externally. But only someone like the Azure Eagle King, who could release such a large energy shield, was one of a kind. At this moment, the Azure Eagle King looked at the corpses on the ground and said you must give an explanation and hand over all the evolution points you had. Otherwise, you wouldn't be allowed to leave easily. His words carried extremely strong penetration. Obviously, his voice was soft, but it was accompanied by a buzzing vibration. You could clearly feel a faint sense of dizziness, but the feeling disappeared completely in less than a second. After all, your soul was now the most noble dragon soul. If you had already hatched, this level of soul attack wouldn't have been able to shake you at all. At this moment, you looked relaxed and said to the Blue Eagle King, "If you're not convinced, come fight me." Looking at the animals below with furrowed brows, all in pain, your voice was full of confidence, as if unaffected at all. This made the Blue Eagle King's heart tremble with shock, because the animalization had only happened recently. Most animals transformed from humans hadn't had time to strengthen their souls with genetic techniques, so this move had always worked wonders at critical moments before, but this time, the Blue Eagle King was really panicking. The reason he chose to target you now was because he saw you use a soul attack just now, and every time he used a soul attack himself, he would fall into a short period of weakness. So the Blue Eagle King thought you were the same and decided to take a gamble. But it turned out he had gambled wrong, because what you released wasn't a special ability at all, but a talent. As it stood now, as long as you had enough spiritual energy in your body, there was no cooldown for the talents you released. And as for the soul attack, the Blue Eagle King was so confident in the face of your powerful dragon soul, it was nothing but a joke. At this moment, the Blue Eagle King's sharp eyes stared fixedly at you, his face filled with disbelief. Then he seemed to think of something. So, he quickly shifted his gaze to the other animals. Then he said, "Your strength was terrifying. Why not join forces now that everyone was here, to eliminate you once and for all? Otherwise, when you grew stronger, there would be no place for them to survive." At this moment, the Blue Eagle King roared at the top of his lungs, pinning all his hopes on the animals that hadn't attacked you just now. After all, those who had attacked you were still lying on the ground. Their auras were weak, but they were all still alive, because the leaders of these animals had all activated several special abilities, and every time they activated a special ability, what it brought them was not only a powerful ability, but also a doubled and strengthened body. At this point, the Blue Eagle King decided to throw caution to the wind. He gambled that you no longer had the ability to kill the remaining animal leaders, but you let out a sneer, filled with disdain. Just now, you had only used Dragon's Roar shaking the sky, with 500 points of spiritual energy in one go. The reason you had shown mercy and not killed them was simply because you wanted to impose the Dragon Soul contract on all of them. You had been in a hurry to leave. But after the Blue Eagle King said those words, you were no longer in such a rush, because you also wanted to see what choice the remaining animals, who hadn't attacked just now, would make. But just as you watched with great interest, several sounds like breaking chains suddenly echoed in your mind, and your heart also began to feel uneasy at the same time. At the same moment, egged on by the Blue Eagle King, several animal leaders finally chose to stand against you. But just as they were about to launch an attack on you, your dragon's might was unleashed, without reservation in an instant. You were extremely anxious at this moment, and even a little angry. So with a low shout, Divine Dragon's Breath was unleashed with all your strength. A gray gas instantly swept across the entire square. This shocked all the animals present, because they could clearly feel the enormous energy contained in this gas. With a sizzle, the space in the square seemed to freeze. Everything turned black and white. Then, a blinding white light spread at lightning speed. In all directions, all the animals present disappeared into the vast white light filled with fear. But 3 seconds later, a beam of light over 5 meters in diameter, carrying terrifying heat, shot out from the center of the square, instantly piercing through the energy shield created by the Blue Eagle King, and landing directly on the palace complex in the distance. After the white light faded, a mushroom cloud tens of meters high appeared not far away. Then you, feeling a little weak, seized the opportunity to order the goshawk to fly far away. It wasn't until several hours later that surviving animals began to stand up one after another, and the first one to stand up was undoubtedly the strongest Blue Eagle King. As the host, he was now in an extremely sorry state. His bright blue wings were mostly charred, and the other surviving animals fared no better. At this moment, tens of thousands of meters above the ground, you kept urging the goshawk to fly rapidly towards Haishang City. The reason you were in such a hurry was because of those crisp cracking sounds that suddenly echoed in your mind in the square. The Dragon Soul contract was a talent you used to contract slaves. Since obtaining it, you had used it on many animals. Once the contract was completed, no matter how far apart you were, between you and your slaves, a special connection would form. And those cracking sounds meant you had lost contact with some animals. But the Dragon Soul contract was extremely overbearing. Except for you, no other animal could take the initiative to terminate it. So there could only be one reason. For this situation, the animals you had contracted were dead, And all the animals you had lost contact with were from Haishang City. Once, to accumulate evolution points, you had stayed there for a month, and during that month, all the mutated animals that appeared in the city had been contracted with the Dragon Soul contract by you. But now, their auras had all disappeared. That's why you suddenly became so anxious, wanting to rush back to Haishang City to see what had happened. After all, when you left, you never expected the Earth's will to descend again, triggering the rise of a large number of animals. In this case, the combat power in Haishang City was somewhat insufficient, even with Wang Qili, who had returned a few days earlier. The result would be the same, because those auras had all disappeared at the same time. To achieve this, the animals attacking Haishang City must be extremely powerful. After a night of continuous flight, you finally entered the territory of Haishang City, but just then, an extremely familiar figure hurriedly appeared within your spiritual sense, so you ordered the goshawk to stop him immediately. That's right, this figure was none other than Husky, the former strategist of the evil dog gang. The moment he saw you, he almost cried tears of joy, and through his explanation, you finally understood what had happened in Haishang City. It turned out that yesterday, several powerful mutated tigers had suddenly invaded Haishang City, so the Dog King and the others had fought fiercely with these tigers, but because the enemy was too powerful, they had suffered heavy losses. However, fortunately, Wang Qili had returned to Haishang City a day earlier. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even now, Wang Qili was still confronting those tigers, and Husky had sneaked out, on Wang Qili's orders, to go to Mohai City to ask Panda for reinforcements. After all, there were still powerful combat forces like the Lion King there, which should be enough to deal with these tigers. And these tigers, as fate would have it, were exactly the ones that had been driven out earlier by the Dog King, the Cat Boss, and the Rat King working together. When animalization had just begun, the forces in the city, to prevent them from growing up and ruling here, had joined forces to drive them out of the city when they were still young, leaving them to fend for themselves in the wild. But no one expected these tigers had actually survived the harsh wild environment, and after the second descent of the Earth's will, they had all activated extremely powerful special abilities. It turned out the Dog King and the others had been too merciful back then. This was completely like letting the tigers return to the mountain. Now that they had grown stronger, they would naturally not show any mercy to the animals in Haishang City, who had oppressed them in the past. Since you couldn't take Husky with you, you had to point him to a relatively safe route to Mohai City. This was the same route he and Wang Qili had taken before, so it would be somewhat safer. Then the goshawk took off again, flying rapidly towards Haishang City. And now the scene shifts to the city gate. Wang Qili and the Dog King, leading several dogs, were engaged in a fierce battle with several tigers. Although they fought back and forth evenly, defeat was only a matter of time, as time passed minute by minute. Finally, the Dog King and the other animals were all seized by the opponent and knocked to the ground. Only Wang Qili was still struggling to hold on, but even two fists can't beat four hands. Several steel-like tiger claws, carrying terrifying destructive power, smashed down fiercely, instantly leaving several deep scars on his hard tortoise shell. With a heart-wrenching scream, Wang Qili fainted from the pain, and this scene was just witnessed by you who rushed back. Then an angry dragon roar suddenly exploded in the minds of these tigers. They didn't even struggle before losing consciousness completely. Congratulations, host, on killing a mutated South China Tiger King. Obtained 24,788 evolution points. Congratulations, host, on killing 6 mutated tigers. Obtained 15,867 evolution points. You were filled with immense regret. You had seen Wang Qili being attacked by the tigers from afar, but due to the insufficient attack range, you were still one step too late. Looking at your brother lying motionless on the ground, you let out an uncontrollable roar of anger, so you immediately asked the system if there was any way to save him. However, the system only gave 2 answers. First, use the talent wheel to obtain Spring Breeze Nurturing. This talent can 100% heal Wang Qili's injuries. Second, fuse a drop of Divine Dragon's essence and blood with Wang Qili, so he can obtain the Dragon Clan's bloodline. Then rely on the Dragon Clan's powerful physique. He only needs to rest for a few days to recover automatically. After some comparison, You directly chose the second method. The next talent draw would cost a full 8,000 points of spiritual energy, and it would double next time, even if you took out all your savings. If it kept doubling, you might not even get that talent. After all, the system also said, although Wang Qili's aura was very weak, with his powerful physique, as long as he received treatment within a month, there would be no major issues. And that day at the Blue Eagle King Square, you had killed countless animals in one go. Plus the evolution points the Dog King had just handed over, which he had been storing for nearly a month. It just reached over 600,000, so you used all the evolution points to speed up the hatching time by 6,000 years. Then a system notification sounded in your ears. Congratulations, host. You have completed the 10,000-year hatching period. Entering the shell-breaking state now,